Hey everybody, good morning. Welcome to the Morning Devo with Bo Monday. Already Monday, 4/25, 2022. We're going to get into the book of Numbers today, chapter 19. Kind of not going to make it too long. And so we're just going to go through one chapter. But first, just want to say, hey, good morning and welcome. So excited to have you guys in the House of Devo. I do these Devos every weekday, Monday through Friday, 9 o'clock, about 9 o'clock. And we kind of get in the Word and we go through the Bible. What a concept, right? A lot of people have read parts of the Bible, but a lot of people haven't actually got through the whole book of the Bible. And it can be kind of tedious for some people. I'm one of those guys who finds it kind of exciting, even coming from my background of kind of, different kinds of music world and California and things like that, surfing and skiing and all that. I find the Bible super cool, and I certainly wasn't raised around it at all. So here we go, and I hope you enjoy it. Book of Numbers. Marsha's already in the house. I'm so stoked that Marsha's here with me, and she's such a good friend, such a good person, and super friendly, and so many awesome qualities. So Marsha, thanks for just always being in here. So I'm going to read from a book of Numbers real quick, or Hebrews, before I get into Numbers. And this book of Hebrews says in chapter 9, this is in the New Testament. So I'm going to read this to you. It says, when Christ came as high priest, and we've been talking a lot about the high priest in the book of Leviticus and Numbers, but it says when Christ came as high priest of the good things that are already here, he went through the greater and more perfect tabernacle that is not man-made, that is to say, not a part of this creation. He did not enter by means of blood of goats and calves, but he entered the most holy place once for all by his own blood, having obtained eternal redemption. The blood of goats and bulls and of the ashes of a heifer sprinkled on those who are ceremonially unclean sanctify them, so that they are outwardly clean. How much more then will the blood of Christ, who through the eternal Spirit offered himself unblemished to God, cleanse our conscience from acts that lead to death, so that we may serve the living God. Really cool. I love this idea here in the book of Hebrews that Jesus, his cleansing work, his purification work, is a deeper work than those that were prescribed in the Torah or in the law. And it's not that the law was bad and what we're reading in the book of Numbers was bad. Contrary, it actually showed that there was a problem and that there was a need of purification. Our hearts to be cleansed. We needed to be made or changed. Something needed to happen so that we were made new. And there was all these ceremonies that were put into place by God through Moses to help the people understand what was needed. You know, it's important for us to understand our need, that we need, to, in a sense, put on Christ. And if you don't know that, then you ain't going to put it on. And it's just like there's Ray Comfort, Pastor Ray Comfort, who has a wonderful ministry, The Way of the Master. But he tells a story about a person who's on a plane, and he's just randomly given a parachute on a plane, and he's told to put on the parachute because it's going to improve his flight. Well, if you're on a plane and you're just given a big bulky parachute, and it's already cramped quarters, isn't it, on a plane, and you're told, hey, put on this parachute because it's going to improve your flight. Well, you try to put that thing on, but your neighbor sitting to the right or to the left of you is pretty bummed because it's bulky. And of course, the person behind you is bummed because your seat's now bouncy and you're not stable at all. And it really is not comfortable. You were told it was going to improve your flight, but it doesn't. And so it makes you frustrated, right? And you just take off the parachute and you throw it down on the ground and say, forget this, take it away. Because you were told it was going to improve your flight, but you weren't told the whole story. You were just told it's going to improve your flight. But if you're told a little extra something, and that is put on the parachute because it's going to improve your flight. Why? Because we're going to be jumping out of the plane in about 5 minutes. Well, just that little idea that you're going to be jumping out of the plane in 5 minutes, really that parachute does now become your everything. And you put on that parachute no matter what. You don't take it off no matter what the ridicule is, no matter what people say to you, because you understand why you're putting on the parachute. And that's really what the Torah is about, what these commands and laws of purification are about. It's helping people understand the why. You need to put this on. You need to put it on, or you need to go through the ritual because there is death coming up. You will die. God is light. You are not light. In him, he dwells in unapproachable light. God does. And so there had to be the Torah was great because it showed people, their sin. It showed them the problem, right? That they couldn't get purified enough. They needed a savior, someone who could cleanse the deep parts, the inward parts, right? To help us, to move us out of this state of being death, the state of death, to a state of being clean or right with God. And so that's what the Torah is always pointing out. So with all that reading, and I know that was all that talking and explaining, I hope you see, that when you understand the reason why you're doing something, why you're putting the parachute on, then, man, you know what? You're going to put on Christ. And when you know that there's a jump to come, right? When you put on Jesus, because you know death's coming, and you know that you are not clean, and you don't know what's going to happen when you die. You don't know. Is your life really worthy to dwell with God? Can you dwell with God? That kind of idea. Can I really? Well, we put on Christ and we hold on to him with everything we got because he is in a sense, he is our comfort, right? We put on the parachute to enjoy and it's going to help improve our flight. Well, we put on Jesus because it's going to improve our flight, right, into the next. So in 19, it says, Then the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, Here is another of my laws. Tell the people of Israel to bring you a red heifer. Now, we read about this red heifer just now in Hebrews. Without defect, one that has never been yoked, so it's not been used, like in the plowing of the field, yoked with another animal, right, with another red heifer. It says, Give her to Eleazar the priest, and he shall take her outside the camp, and someone shall kill her as he watches. It's a female red heifer. Eleazar shall take some of her blood upon his finger and sprinkle it 7 times toward the front of the tabernacle. Then someone shall burn the heifer as he watches, her hide, her meat, her blood, and dung. Very interesting. The whole animal's to be consumed outside of the camp. Very different from the other sacrifices. Eleazar shall take cedar wood and hyssop branches and scarlet thread and throw them into the burning pile. Then he must wash his clothes, go through a baptism of sorts, right? And afterward return to the camp and be ceremonially defiled until the evening. And then the one who burns the animal must wash his clothes and bathe, and he too shall be defiled until evening. Then someone who is ceremonially defiled shall gather up the ashes of the heifer and place them in some purified place outside the camp. And it says, where they shall be kept for the people of Israel as a source of water for the purification ceremony. So they're making a concoction, if you will, right? To, in a sense, a purifying ointment. And it will be the water for purification ceremonies for the removal of sin, to make someone outwardly ceremonially clean so they can come into and worship. And the one who gathers up the ashes of the heifer must wash his clothes and be defiled until evening. This is a permanent law for the benefit of the people of Israel and for any foreigners living among them. Everyone is needing this, whether you're living here, whether you're not, whether you're a foreigner, whether you're a descendant of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We all need cleansing. Isn't that cool? Everybody does. Everybody needs to be washed. In a sense, everybody needs to be purified. It's the idea that, hey, God, when I'm thinking of God or the deity, let's say, there's something that I need to happen to me. There needs to be a purification, meaning there's something about me that is unclean. There's something about me that's not right. And this is something that we struggle with as human beings. And today I want to be open with this before God and say, hey, God, let me not neglect, that truth, that there's something deeply wrong with me and bent with me, and help me with those areas of my life. And not ignore them, right? But instead realize that, hey, this is something I'm aware of, and that you are a perfect God, and that when I approach you, I'm approaching someone who's much different than me, separated from me, in that you're not incomplete like I am, not bent like I am, not jaded like I am, right? Not filled with all these things of jealousies or envy or strife or all these other things. That kind of idea. And I think it's great. Some of these ceremonies are so beautiful because, in a sense, they show our need so great. The consuming of an animal, the whole animal sacrificed, offered to God. Everything's taken. We, in a sense, need, to be stripped of all of our stuff and just come clean to God, in a sense, come before the Lord, stripped of all of our worldly things, right? And just come to Christ, kind of idea. I like these kind of pictures. It says, anyone who touches a dead human body shall be defiled for 7 days and must purify himself the 3rd and 7th days with water. Again, a lot of immersions. Remember, they made a concoction too. And Marcia says, the longer I walk with God, the more I realize how bent and imperfect I am. So true, right? So here we have these washings, this water, and it's supposed to be a ceremonially cleansing ointment, right? And it brings a person, in a sense, prepares them and makes them clean in order to go into the tabernacle and offer their sacrifices. And it says at verse 13, anyone who touches a dead person and does not purify himself in the manner specified has defiled the tabernacle of the Lord. He shall be excommunicated from Israel. The cleansing water was not sprinkled upon him, so the defilement continues. So this concoction was important and utilized in the camp of Israel when someone became ceremonially unclean, or what was called defiled, right? Not able to come into the presence of God because of something wrong with them, right? They've touched death, or they've been around something. They're not, in a sense, unblemished, So it says in verse 14, when a man dies in a tent, these are the various regulations. Everyone who enters the tent and those who are in it at the time shall be defiled 7 days. So whoever's in the tent, whoever touches the body, they're defiled. Any container in the tent without a lid over it is defiled, right? Very interesting, right? A lid over it. Man, it seems like it's, really about health too, right? Cleanliness, viruses, where they go, where they end up, these kind of things. So I find it interesting in that way too, that Numbers is that book of health, so to speak, cleanliness. And so if someone out in the field touches the corpse of someone who has been killed in battle or who has died in any other way, or if he has touched a bone or a grave, he shall be defiled 7 days. To become purified again, ashes from the red heifer sin offering are to be added to spring water in a kettle. Then a person who has not defiled shall take hyssop branches and dip them into the water and sprinkle the water upon the tent and upon all the pots and the pans. It's almost like taking something in a water bottle and spraying it on things, right? It's interesting. And it says, and then it goes in verse 19, this shall take place on the 3rd and 7th days. Then the defiled person must wash his clothes and bathe himself, and that evening he will be out from under defilement. So the 3rd and the 7th days are big days of cleansing, it says, a washing, and then they come out from this state of being defiled. So those who are in Christ have come out of a state of defilement. We are no longer seen positionally as defiled, but we are now seen positionally as righteous, as clean. We are declared right before God because the blood of Christ, the book of Hebrews says, has not just cleansed the outward in the sense we can come into the presence of God, but it's cleansed the inward, right? The hostilities that we've had against God, the sins of hostility, meaning we've been hostile to God's law. So instead of holding fast to it, we've broken it and we've been hostile to it again, continually against it. And so Jesus is the ultimate cleansing, the ultimate spray, spray bottle, right? That is sprayed on us and cleanses us. It's kind of interesting. But anyone who is defiled and doesn't purify himself shall be excommunicated, for he has defiled the sanctuary of the Lord, and the water to cleanse himself has not been sprinkled upon him, so he remains defiled. So the only way to go from being defiled to being, in a sense, clean is to go through this ceremony. And there was no other way to do it. There was only one way to go through it. There wasn't options given here. And this is the same way with Christ. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. There is not many ways to cleanliness. There's only one way to cleanliness. And so yeah, Laura Walker says these rules still are applicable to today. It says everything we come into contact with germs on the living and the dead to prevent a catastrophic infection. That's right. There's a lot of cool things that we can look at in the scriptures and go, wow, this really makes sense. Even in a kind of a caring for one another, kind of a health way, right? So it's a permanent law. This was to be a permanent law in Israel, it says. And it talks about a person, of course, being made clean so that they can come into the presence of God. And like I said, Jesus is the one who makes us clean. That's what the book of Hebrews talks about, that we've been made clean by him. We've been given a new status. We've been bathed in Christ. See all those words in the New Testament? Bathed, washed, clothed, purified. They all come from these passages in the Bible. Isn't that cool? That's where they come from. So really neat. We get to focus on Christ this morning. We get to focus on Jesus, that he cleanses not only the outward, but guess what? He cleanses the inward as well. Isn't that cool? He cleanses our inward parts. Yeah, he cleanses us through and through. A lot of cool things to think about with Jesus, that he's not only taking care of my outward, but he's taking care of, the body. He'll take care of that too. He will resurrect us, but he's also taking care of the inward, all the stuff inside. So, hey, gonna have a good week in the Word, and looking forward to it with you all. Tomorrow we'll kick off Numbers chapter 20. So you guys have a great morning and take care. Bye-bye.